Is an October rate cut still on the table? Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Market House. I'm Maggie Lake, and today I'm talking markets with Dale Pinkert, coach at TradeGateHub. Hi, Dale. Happy Friday.
Hi, Maggie. I think it'll be pulled off the table. I don't think he'll do it. There's already people talking about this was a policy error with some of
Oh,
the strong economic numbers we're getting. Inflation really isn't letting up. I've talked to some smart people who think because of this, we could be looking at in the next couple of years 5% a year, 5% inflation, which is still way understated if you include things like eating
mm.
and shelter and everything. So yeah, I think that the 10-year yield is already rebelling. We talked about the 4% floor and the 420 being important. It got to 420 today and was turned back, but important levels.
Mic drop right out of the gate. We're
Yeah.
we're we're setting the table, which I love. And a lot of people, I think this is the conversation that's going to dominate. Hey, everyone who's joining us live on Substack and YouTube, don't worry, we're going to go over some of those bond levels again. And I know some of you have us on one screen and the Ryder Cup on the other, and we appreciate that. We were just talking about it and checking in on it, and looks like the Europeans came out strong. So for all those Europeans in the audience who are golf fans, congrats. It's going to be a fun weekend to watch that. So just to recap, if you have been watching more golf than markets, U.S. stocks managed to pull out of their slump today, helped by a PCE inflation reading that was in line with expectations, no nasty surprises, and that was enough for stocks. The Dow, the S&P, the NASDAQ all advanced. And I didn't check in the last few minutes, but yeah, they held those gains. Russell as
They're
well.
there.
But U.S. Treasuries, not exactly, right? They're sort of holding steady. The 10-year pinned around at last check about 4.1%. But as you say, it touched
418.
1.8. So it touched
Yeah.
two. And
Yeah.
that's what Dale was just talking about and what's on his radar. So Dale, this gets really tricky and interesting because is the bond market really going to be keying off all the economic data we get now? Is that what's likely to move the needle?
Yeah, I think it's going to be focused on that. And, this hasn't been as dramatic as the last easing cycle, but it's not really great action.
Mm.
I mean, if I was Chairman Powell and I eased down here, right? This was the day right here, this day, and the yields backed up on me, would make me think twice about easing again because the market's saying, you know what, we think it was unnecessary. And so if I'm going to buy 10-year notes, you're going to have to pay me more to hold them. And this may just be beginning. I think there's a possibility before this move is over is that we're, back up here at 460 and challenging a breakout. So we'll see how everything handles this. It's all part of the same story. Dollar recovery, yields heading up, could pressure the market for a correction.
Mm.
So, a few of those things fell into place this week. I know the market recovered, but last week I told the story about someone who watches my videos, and I was considering getting short earlier in the week, and he said 67.05, and
And that's the
I
number, just to jump in, that's the number. You sort of gave us this setup, not
yeah
only with levels, which I appreciate, but also how you would play this. And you talked about, having a framework and probing first.
yeah
And we did see that. It looked like it went in your favor and worked. Why don't you walk us through, we had
okay.
that decline and actually stocks ended lower on the week. So how do you play this now when you get this sort of rally on Friday? How do you think about, does that change
Well,
your setup?
I
How does
I
that play
booked
out?
most of it, and I showed this line last week. This was a Fed day, and the market held the throwover line. It's
Mm,
so amazing. It did it again. Now, so far, the bounce doesn't seem to have the same type of strength that the bounce did off the first time.
mm,
I do think eventually we're going to take it out. And I thought I'd even teach and give away a technique that I use that's very simple and it's easy to do. And it's called a 2 week reversal or a 2 week off number, and you could use it on any time frame. But I had this as an important technical area.
Mm.
But if I went to my weeklies and counted back, let's widen it a little bit. From this week, count back 2 weeks. So this is how you know if you have a reversal or not, if it closes beneath the close from 2 weeks ago. And the close was 65.84. And besides, so that was also, this low was 80. So it went right to the off number. And if you look at these off numbers, you'll see that they're tradable because it's 10 days of memory to the left of the market. So if the market would have taken out this line, it would have been underway. So are we going to make a new high first? I know a lot of people talking mid-October for a high. I still think it's possible that this is just a failing rally, but you'll have confirmation back under 65.80, which will take you to 64 in a hurry. So I still think this could be a failing rally after this break, and I'm looking for lower numbers still. So, when you have 100 handles in the S&Ps, you have to take something off the table, right? So, the reason for the sale was I thought it would be a third drive. The strength of the candle surprised me, but I scaled in 480. I had a 580. What was it? Yeah, 685 sell, and then an 05 sell, and the 805, 705, and the high was 10. So I mean that was pretty spot on. There wasn't much heat or drawdowns, and to me it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it could have been a 5-wave reversal signature, and this may just be a failing rally to sell. So I'll be selling rallies. I'm selling rips next week, wrong over the high of the move. I don't think it'll get through 80.
Okay. So this is so interesting because I want to talk about tech for a second, because I hear so much about concerns about an AI bubble, right? It's in my feed. I'm sure it's in all of your feeds, and the arguments are really strong, right? I understand it. I want to play a clip from Juliet. As you know, as our subscribers know, I had a macro session with her, and I think she talked about something that a lot of people feel. Let's see if we can play that clip, and then we'll talk on the other side.
So, I mean, in the short term, honestly, you can't go against hope, which is part of the reason why I like gold so much. Obviously, one direct implication from what we're talking about is gold. Whether you're talking about like the devaluation of all FX, you're talking about like, that basically the one place where you benefit is gold, and the other benefit of gold that it doesn't really have a valuation anchor. It's kind of the same thing for like AI stocks, where you can just basically like surf on like hope until there's actually some hard numbers, some hard profit numbers, which are obviously not going to be there for a few more years. So as long as there's momentum in something that doesn't have a valuation anchor, I'm not interested in shorting, even if it's completely ridiculous. That's basically what makes bubbles. And, I don't want to go against the formation of a bubble.
We'll talk about some of this stuff she said. By the way, if you are not subscribing to us on Substack, please do so, because you'll be able to access interviews like that. So Dale, she said something really interesting. And I know you were talking about selling rips, which is why I wanted to bring this up. And if you buy the fundamental story, she's sort of talking about this momentum that's behind some of these AI stocks. And Taif is asking about stocks like Palantir. I don't know if you mean Apple or another one, Taif, but the same thing.
How about Nvidia?
Yeah. So it's hard because you see these, when you start to see it look like it's rolling over, and we've seen Oracle down for 5 days, but some of these other stocks, they're flat. And when you get a dip, this momentum, these people who are believers come in. How do you grapple with something like that? Is it just selling the rally as opposed to outright shorting it?
Well, I think Palantir gave a pretty bad signal back here in August. Okay, and it's taken a long time. Palantir normally during a real hot phase would have already taken out this high, and I'm not saying it can't, but it also kind of looks like Amazon,
Mm.
where you rallied, you didn't make a new high, and here we are. Kind of looks like Ethereum did up here. You made a rally, didn't make a new high, and here. And you know, one of the reasons, Maggie, I'm still pretty negative the market for a correction is because if Bitcoin is a proxy for liquidity and risk, this was something we talked about last week. I said I didn't like it, and that if it takes out 113, you want to get out of the way. Here we are at 109. I'm looking for 100 grand on Bitcoin. So I understand prudence over valor, but if I could find like even 4 hours, that's really what I'm going to be working with. Divergences in S&Ps, and there are some things that long term don't look great. And you know, I'm still in the melt up camp, but look at this. With this whole rally from April, we still haven't taken out on the weekly chart. We haven't taken out the weekly highs of RSI for a long time. All we've done so far is get back to 70. So even if we're going to go to 7,500, I'm still looking for an interim correction. Last week I said 5 to 7%. You know, that's still on the table for me, that we're going to get some type of crack. And when you talk about things like Nvidia, I didn't think the action was great in Nvidia for a couple reasons. First of all, with semiconductors making new highs, Nvidia hasn't. It's not such a great looking week. It hasn't made a new high in about 5 weeks. It's not that far away, but it was this day, Maggie, where they came out and they did a deal, I think, with Intel.
Yep.
And you know, it seemed kind of gimmicky to me. I know they throw a lot of numbers, but everyone's giving everyone else money. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
What I mean, what's going on? I mean, everyone that was competing with everyone else is now investing in their competitors. But the action wasn't good because it gave it all back in a day. So, you know, I still think this acts heavy with the market making successive new all-time highs. And then Palantir, I think, is, you know, also looks heavy, that this could be a failing rally here in Palantir, and we get something like this from here. I don't think it's the end of these stocks. I think they could move higher, but I think you could get better price levels. If we get a 5% correction in the general indexes, these things can break, 15, 20%.
And Taif, I think that partly is what you were asking. And Dale, you bring up such a good point about that. And some other folks are looking at that, especially people who had experience all around the telecom build out, around the internet. We're not saying it's an absolute, but signs of that. I think somebody called it sort of channel stuffing or supplier stuffing, or if you don't follow Blind Squirrel on Substack, do so. He did a lot of deals and was active in the markets in investment banking back in that day. And he's concerned about that as well and is writing about it. So check out his Substack on that. I just talked to him about that yesterday. And Cosmo, one more point.
I really don't think the big market top happens until the spring of next year.
Right. So you're just seeing the sort of the tension now starting to build, that you're going to start to see some corrections, but you're still going to melt up, but not a big top until next spring.
One good correction into the fall and then up into the spring at who knows where the top will be.
Which is why folks like Juliet are saying they have issues with some of the fundamental story, but they're not willing to short it because of that momentum. Cosmo, I just want to respond to something you said. A lot of people, including Juliet, believe AI is going to change everything. They just have some issues about the capital spend right now and whether revenues will be there to support it. Put very simply, and this is not the whole story, but like, is there a moat, right? Can you charge in order to justify all the capital spend? That's one of the big concerns people have. So they think it's the technology is going to change things. They're more worried about the balance sheet side of
Yeah,
things.
like kind of like in the .com era, where Amazon went to 10 bucks after the bust on Nasdaq. Okay, so but Amazon's still around, and they changed everything, didn't they? Online shopping, deliveries, they changed everything. So what she's talking about is valuations eventually could come in dramatically, but the survivors of what happens here, just like Amazon and Facebook and all the other .coms that survived, the internet did change our lives, but a lot of companies didn't make it to
Exactly,
enjoy
Dale.
it.
Well put. And Amazon's a great example because they're just such a behemoth, and we know how much they've disrupted
Yeah,
everything, and
in
they still are.
02, it went to 10.
Yeah, it's still, by the way,
Yeah.
and congratulations if you're one of those people who had the foresight to buy it. We had some great questions coming in. We're going to jump around a little bit because they're so good.
I can still jump.
Yes, you can, Dale. We know.
All
So
right.
J&J asking, what are Dale's thoughts on DXY and how it's playing into the price action happening in metals right now?
Okay, so followers know this was the day it turned bullish. This was the Fed too. Everything happened on the Fed, a lot of inflection points. Last week I said buy a pullback towards 97. It's the dollar's so tough. It was a very shallow pullback. The only currency that had a decent failing rally was euro. It retraced 61.8 of its initial decline here. So I think you still have to be long Dixie. I won't chase it, but I would buy a break in the dollar. I'm still looking for my target is starting to even make some technical sense. Now you see this black line at 98.80. Let's call it 98.80. And the low was 620. So that's 260 points, which would over 98, that's going to get me near my target of 102, would measure 101.40. So I'd still be buying breaks in the Dixie.
Okay.
And I think the
metal.
Dixie is part of the reason. The question from a viewer was, when I was talking the bull case in the dollar last week, was, do you think a dollar rally will create a correction in stocks? And I said, yes. So this could be what pressures it for that small correction, as the dollar rallying back towards this 102 level. There you have the 200-day. It gets above there, something else is happening, but that's what I'm looking for. So, you're not late. You didn't buy the bottom, but there's plenty left in the dollar to the upside, in my extremely accurate and humble opinion.
What about the well, I'll go with accurate, as we know. Dale tracks it from week to week for us.
I'd like to announce with the greatest of pride how humble I've become. All right, so anyway.
Hey, Dale, I think the second part of that question was, what do you think the impact on metals will be?
Okay, so the silver doesn't care about anything.
Yeah, and Gems is asking, what's your current take on silver? So we've got a couple questions on silver.
It doesn't care about anything. It's parabolic. And I actually traded it this week and made money being short. I said going out last week I was going to try short in gold, and I did. And I think it was this day, and I got stopped out, and I'm going to try it again. I did make. I had 2 trades in gold. One good for 10. One I lost 25, and one short in silver that worked for about 40 cents. But as you can see now, if we get that continuation weakness in the dollar for a little bit, and gold rallies to new highs, on the 4 hour, it's not going to confirm. This last high confirmed. Look at where it is now. So I'll be looking to, I still believe, I know it's high risk, and I get a lot of pushback and hate for saying that gold could go down, and 4,000 is a layup, but I still, now I'm getting heavy. I have more reason to do it this week than I did last week. Okay, so I still think that if you're patient and you can sit like Tony Greer with arms folded. It's what I learned from Tony this week when I talked to him. He goes, it's a great posture for a trader so that he doesn't come out of his trades too soon. But I think there's my targets for gold, and I think we're about to enter a multi-month correction with the dollar, that this next wave up in the dollar will have impact on it. And I think that if you're patient, you'll be able to buy gold under 3,000.
Hmm.
3,250 is a target, but here's some weekly moving averages, 3,100. I'm top picking gold.
So what about silver? You mentioned it was parabolic; it doesn't care about anything, but you tried to short it a little bit. Does silver?
Yeah, I may try it because I am we really got killed on the gold silver ratio, which were numbers I had talked about before, and I thought we were going to rally the gold silver ratio for from here. It looked like it was going to rally with the dollar, and it collapsed. But that's why I'm going to short gold. It's a less dangerous short. But if we get some type of turn in the gold silver ratio, I still think that I know a lot of people are talking, 50 is a layup now, right? We'll see. But gold is the preferred short because of this. Look at how much more momentum there is. But even silver with this kind of move, it's not really blowing out the RSI. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be long silver unless it's physical. If you're leveraged and you're late in the game, you're playing a high rollers game. It's even too much of a high roller, excessive volatility, hard to manage risk market for me.
Ian, I think that answers your question. He was asking about the gold silver ratio.
But gold I could trade with $25 stops, average daily trading range. Gold I could. And I don't know, it seems like we're a little late to the party. Gold's not confirming either with this. Silver, yeah, it's amazing.
So yeah, it's just been
and all of them, the white stuff, right? There's platinum, and even palladium starting to come out of the hole here.
Yeah, it's just been blowing out on those upside levels. But so gonna ask about this. I don't think any of us know how to handicap it, but I'm just wondering how you're approaching it as you set up your trades. We have the potential for a government shutdown looming. Now, usually we don't talk about that.
I brought it up last week.
You did, and you said that you thought this time it could be real. And in the interim, in this week, I'm hearing a lot of people from Washington getting very concerned about it. And the market usually blows it off, but a lot of people are starting to say, because it's sort of political drama, a lot of people are starting to say this time they think there is going to be one. They're so far apart, and it's so contentious. They're not even talking. Now the question is just, how long does it last? But interestingly, for the markets, does that mean no payroll number, no economic data? If it starts to drag into the month, we've got a Fed meeting coming up. What does that sort of uncertainty do? Are you less willing to take risks because we don't know what's going to happen? How are you thinking about that?
Well, I don't think it's bullish. It may not be bearish, but I don't think it's bullish. If anything, I think there might be, some confidence. Maybe that's the shutdown is the break to buy in the dollar, and maybe the rally to sell in gold. I'm really not sure, Maggie, because I don't remember the last time. Conditions are different. We have a different leader who knows what's going to happen there, but I don't think it's bullish. It just shows that we've really come to a place where Even our government looks broken.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's, again, the last few times the market's kind of brushed it off because it has been resolved and it's the 11th hour and then everyone gets nervous. This time around, it seems like the stakes are a little higher. So I wonder,
It's
if
one of
the
the last
market,
lever of power that the Democrats can pull.
yeah.
That's why I thought last week that it would happen, because their rationale for doing it is to reinstate a lot of the healthcare cuts that
Mm,
were in the big beautiful bill.
mm, yeah.
So
Uh,
but people will get angry if they're not getting their checks.
Well, there's talk of this time instead of furloughing workers, just so you know, in case you haven't been watching it,
Yeah,
actually just laying
yeah.
off a lot of federal workers, which is a changed situation. We haven't had that in the past either. Love is a battlefield saying,
It's
I
almost
smell
like
a,
an excuse to do what they were doing with Doge.
yeah,
Almost
well,
like it's being welcomed.
people are wondering, but that puts us into uncharted territory when everybody sort of got used to the cadence of these shutdowns, even though they're disappointing. It was not a market event. I'm not sure that we could go into this one assuming the same thing. Love is a
No.
battlefield said, I smell a rise in the VIX coming soon. We'll see. I mean, lots of other things that should have made the VIX go up haven't. So I'm
But
not.
the VIX actually was a great tell, because we just made a new high this week in the S&Ps, and the VIX hasn't made a new low since the end of August. It kept
Hmm.
putting in higher lows. So we'll see. This doesn't look too pretty here, but if they could hold 15 and turn it, maybe there's something there, or just come in and rally. But the VIX was kind of people were buying insurance before the break that we had, and funds are shorting volatility huge. We know what happens when the market gets too short, Val. It can actually fuel shakeout. We've
Mm,
seen that before, where the whole world is using that for income by shorting vol, shorting the products, the options, and then you have an event and you get 60
mm.
um, in the VIX for 10 minutes.
And Josh is saying, yeah, VIX was
Uh,
climbing with SPY. I love to put on shorts when I see that. So Josh
yeah,
is agreeing with you. Anything else on your radar, Dale, that you're kind of keeping an eye on? I know we talked about some grains before. You were looking at some other soft commodities. Oh,
yeah.
Cosmo asking you have any thoughts on Tesla?
Tesla's a monster. Um, you know, it looks to me like you really can't fade. Tesla's one stock I don't think I would fade.
Hmm.
I think it's going to new highs. I'd buy a pullback in Tesla. Maybe if the market, what happens is the strongest stocks will give up the least during a general market sell-off. So perhaps, instead of something like Nvidia going to take out, lows from a month or so ago, all you get is a pullback in something like Tesla. I think you buy it at 400, 375 on a pullback. It still
Mm,
looks good.
mm. Um, Doug asking on the SPX, if we had a 2 or 3 week sideways action period, wouldn't that resolve the oversold issue? Thanks.
The oversold or overbought?
I have a feeling he meant overbought, but I'm reading his words. But let's assume.
Yeah, yeah. Markets can work off overbought and oversold conditions sometimes in time, not just in price.
Mm,
So that could happen. We're really not overbought in the S&Ps uh, after this week. This was a confirmed high that we had before the sell-off, but we're really no longer overbought. I'd be waiting for like 40 or so to get long. So my ideal target is, if I get what I'm looking for, would be this fan line, which happens to come in at around 61 and a half, which, if that sounds like a familiar number to you, it's because it was the old all-time high of
mm,
61 and a half. Okay. So that would be a natural place for it to come back before the next run, for it to pull back to here. Most people don't think that's much more than 5%. I think it's about 7 or 8. But that would be ideal. Just like the 4,800 level was a retest of a prior high too. See, look at this. So maybe we'll get a repeat. So the crash in April just retested the old all-time high. So maybe the pullback in S&Ps comes back to retest the most recent all-time high that we blew through this spring and summer.
That's why it's important to remember them. Dale, so appreciate ending the week with you. I was shaking, pulling out my hair, folks, right before we came on air. Dale was laughing at me because it's been one of those weeks, but I feel much calmer now and more informed, as always. We all do, Dale. So thank you so much. Such a pleasure.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Maggie, thank you.
Have a great weekend. Enjoy all those great sports out there. Give yourself a break. Turn your eyes away from the machine so you can come back fresh on Monday.
All right.
Wait, Paul said there's a statue of Dale Pinkert out front of the entrance of the Traders Convention. Well, if there's not, there should be. Maybe we'll have to do a GoFundMe to get one.
Now I have to hire someone to keep the pigeons away.
We'll do a virtual one in the market house. How about that?
All right, Maggie.
Dale,
thanks for having
so
me.
much. Enjoy the weekend, everyone.
Right.
Good luck.
Adios.
Take care.